Okay, shall we stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The records reflect that all are present with the exception of Mr. Churchill. Do we have any additions or deletions on the agenda?
Move the agenda be approved as submitted. Support.
Motion and support to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The minutes from our February 1st meeting.
I move the minutes of the last meeting be approved as presented.
Motion and support to approve the minutes from our February 1st meeting as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, under unfinished business, draft zoning ordinance amendment relating to short-term rentals.
Okay, in your packages, you have a amendment document there to review here tonight. The first part of it is a proposed definition for vacation home rental that basically that states a commercial use of a single-family or two-family dwelling where the dwelling or portion thereof which is rented for less than 30 days. In section 2 is the portion of the document where the use would be listed, I expect as a use by right in whichever zoning districts the Planning Commission directs here tonight. Section 3 provides the staff's recommendation for a parking requirement for vacation home rental. And then finally, Section 4 provides that a vacation home rental would not be subject to site plan review. There's also a bit of housekeeping in there that I failed to point out in the memo with regards to home occupations. Home occupations do have a parking requirement, and so they should be mentioned in here as being exempt from site plan review as well. So that's a piece of housekeeping that we're doing, mentioning home occupations in that section. And that completes the overview of the draft. So, I don't know if Steve has any comments at this point.
I think just about the home occupations, right now we only require a zoning permit for those. There are requirements in there, it's just
Chuck?
Well, I've got problems with the requirement for a zoning permit. The justification seems to be to prove in some future time that if the regulations change, that it's a unit is grandfathered in. I don't really see any necessity for that at all. If we change the regulation to make it more restrictive at some point in the future, anything up to the date of the change would grandfather them in, and all they'd have to do is provide a receipt showing they'd rented their house any time before that. It looks like just a great big bookkeeping exercise, and I don't really see the need for it. We're changing this thing to a use by right, and I don't see any reason to put restrictions on a use by right. The zoning permit, even if it's only $10, $15, $20, is still a cost. Somebody's got to keep track of all the paperwork. It looks like we're going to 3 categories: a use by right, a use by zoning permit, and a use by special use permit. I don't see the reason for it. That's my thinking on that one.
Okay.
I agree. I think historically there's never been a new use issued for rentals that I know of. Been talking to these guys in the last few days. We only had one start to an enforcement issue on these. So historically these have gone on. We have very limited number of complaints. I'd like to see this as a use by right with no zoning permits, meet the parking requirement of single family residence, which is 2, and no visit by zoning, no permits of any kind, no oversight. There's 300 to 500 at least of these that are on the internet. probably another 500 that are out there we don't know about. To have 500 people come in to get zoning review for something that's gone on without problems historically, I don't think is the right answer. So I'd like to see us do whatever we have to do to change the ordinance to allow this to be a use by right, meet the minimum 2 parking places that a single-family residence meets, and move on to issues that where we do have concerns and complaints.
I would agree with that, both of you on that one. And the other thing that was caught me a little bit by surprise too, if we have to do something in a use by right of specifying like they did here, they limited this to a single and a 2-family dwelling, and we've got all kinds of dwellings that people would use and rent. You know, we have apartments, condominiums, even a multi-family dwelling. I could see for events that people may want to make use of their property. So if we did anything, I would say to spell out that right, it would be any dwelling, not limiting it necessarily to a single or a 2-family dwelling.
One other comment, I think I'd like to see this use allowed by right in all zoning districts.
I agree. At least put it in our draft before we have our public meeting. And then if we get, everybody against rentals in one or more of the districts, then we could change it. But for a preliminary go, I put it as a use by right in all districts.
I think, go ahead if you want to comment, Steve.
Yeah, so with that choice, if that's the direction that you choose to go, especially let's focus on not having a permit. I just want you to know, because we talked to legal counsel a bit today about this, so you know the implications of that. I'm not going to argue one side or the other. I just want you to know the results of that. If you don't, if you go with the proposal here where there's a different, there'd be a new use that we would add in called vacation home rentals. Somehow you have to acknowledge that somebody is using it. Obviously, they've got a zoning permit because it's a single-family home or they're grandfathered in. So they've got that use already, or multi-family dwelling, whichever one you choose. If there's a new use that they're now going to be incorporating, say, vacation home rentals, you have to document that new use or in some way, whether it's zoning permit or something else. Mainly because if, like you said, if some point in the future, maybe it's 20 years down the line, somebody wants to add even just one additional regulation to that, you wouldn't really be able to do that. This is a one-shot deal. If you don't register, if somebody changes that use and they don't register it in some way, there's no way for them to really say for sure that they have that grandfathering capability. They don't really get registered under that new use, so they don't really have a grandfathering situation. You'd never be able to add an additional regulation to that. It's okay, but you just need to know that implication.
That's fine. Yeah. I don't see where it's any different than when we've changed setback requirements. We haven't required people to come in who are grandfathered in.
It's quite different. Mainly because in this case it's a different use. So everybody in the whole county that has a single family home can come to you and say, I rented that at some point in the future, so I'm grandfathered. So every home would essentially be grandfathered. It'd be pretty messy if you tried to add any regulations, which is okay, but you can't, you're committing the county to no longer having any stricter regulations on vacation home rentals. Am I getting that right from what we talked about?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can look at that maybe 20 years or as soon as we get a lot of complaints. I think that.
But what I'm saying is you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to add that regulation at any time in the future without a huge headache.
I think we can.
Because everything would be grandfathered.
I'm not an attorney, but I believe we change the ordinance all the time and don't have people come in on camping and use of their property. They don't have to come in each time, and it could be a new use. It depends on.
But this is very different.
Okay.
You got to understand that, because what you're doing is you're allowing somebody to have a new use on the property, but you're not. And every other situation you're talking about, there's been a zoning permit filed for that to register it. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a zoning permit. It can be, they call us or send us a letter and say, I'm establishing a vacation home rental. Even something as simple as that could help create that grandfathering situation where if for some reason in the future you wanted to create, maybe you wanted to add another parking spot requirement, or you wanted to limit the number of bedrooms. I think, I've heard some concerns that maybe this shouldn't happen in a 10-bedroom house. You would never be able to add that unless you had it filed in some way. And it's really, it does double duty. It protects future planning commissions from having the option to have some additional regulations. But it also protects that homeowner. I mean, you could get somebody that comes in later on and says, but, I don't believe you. I don't think you had that new use. So I'm not going to let that happen. Well, they've made that investment in that property, and now they don't have record of that grandfathering. So I'm just saying, some sort of recording for the property owner's protection for the future planning commissions. The other way to do it, now, if you didn't want to, you really don't want to permit, is instead of a new use, you could redefine a single-family home to be rented for any period of time.
Whatever's the easiest way to allow these rentals without any zoning oversight except what we have for single family is what I'm looking at this point. And I believe 20 years down the road, we've revised our zoning ordinance everywhere, and I think saying that we can never revise it and these people come back, I'd have to check that out, because, and most people keep a receipt or have neighbors that remember. So years down the road, if this becomes a problem, then that owner is going to have to provide some information, and don't worry, everybody will come up with something if they have to.
Joe?
I agree with what Mike's saying. The thing is, they could establish their grandfathering the day before you change the regulation to make it more prohibitive.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So I don't see that we're accomplishing much this way. And if legal says that there is some basis for that, then I would propose that the county send out a letter to every single property owner telling them that if you want to establish grandfathering permission on your property, on a residence, then sign this and send it back. That way, everybody's covered. Doesn't cost them anything other than a stamp, and you can keep track of the 5,000 pieces of paper.
my last count was on VRBO was 220, I think, and Airbnb was about 60.
But
So
that
that's
isn't
too
what
much.
you're going to get, though.
But-
If you're trying to establish that, and we go to all zoning districts,
22,000.
you got however many parcels there are in this county, that's what you're gonna have.
And that's what and if that's what you want, that's very easy to do. They
No,
can
that's what
simply-
you want.
Yeah,
No,
we're
I'm
not
saying
interested in
that.
that.
We're
We're
saying your
interested.
implications of what you're deciding. So if you choose you want the least amount, like you're saying, is, a simple letter or an email to us to say, I have a vacation home rental, and that establishes something.
We're not saying that. We don't want anything. We want it done.
You just said a letter. I'm sorry. I was
No,
wondering-
he was just saying if that's what.
If that's what legal says, it's going to require to establish the grandfathering on a potential need for grandfathering at some point in the future, if the regulations change, to make it more restrictive. I mean, that's,
That could be 20 years in the future.
and it could be never.
Right.
But if that's what legal says, then I think the onus is on us to send out a letter to everybody that they can just say, yes, I am establishing for grandfathering purposes that my property is a rental property. Then it's done. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. And if they say, I don't want to do it, and don't send it back, and they sell their property, and the next guy comes along, he can do it the day before the regulations changed. He can sign the letter.
Mike?
We spent a lot of time on this. To date, historically, it hasn't even happened once. We only had one enforcement issue that didn't even go through. I say let's set it aside. If we need future regulations and proof, like Chuck says, the day before the regulation comes in, people that are interested can write us a letter, you can log them in. And I'm saying that if this comes up 15 years from now or 2 years from now, that it's a terrible problem, we'll address it in some other manner. I just can't see 300 to 500 people coming in and have to do anything other than they're doing right now. I can see tax problems, that tax people could come in and say, hey, we want a list of all the people that you are granting these, and they're gonna go after them for taxes. Let's leave it as it is for now. We can always change it, and I think it's reasonable to do just that. That's my opinion, and I think we could spend a lot of time with letters and public hearings and stuff. There will be 2 more public hearings, 2 more hearings, ours and the commissioners. So if there's a lot of opposition to that, maybe this will change.
I think it would just be a matter of changing the definition then. Looking at the dwelling, that would be the easiest way to do it.
Okay. However you can do it easily, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Do you need a motion, or are you just gonna rough it up? Draft it, whatever.
Yeah, we'll draft it up.
So the whole gist of this is we're not going to have any rules or regulations for rentals. Is that correct?
Except
Essentially.
that.
So is
they'll
there
have
any
to meet the-
protection for the renter?
The renter.
There's no zoning. What they're discussing is, yeah, no.
I mean, I haven't been here, so I'm trying to gather it all in.
What the proposal would, the effect of the proposal would be that a single-family home can be rented by the night to whomever.
By the night, by the week.
The whole definition of a single-family home would include that.
With the parking restriction.
Yeah, we realize that you weren't here last time, and you are the exception. You're the only young person here. And that was pointed out to us in the last meeting. We're all a bunch of old farts, but you're the exception, so we'll make allowance.
There's already a 2-space parking requirement for a dwelling,
Right.
per dwelling, or per dwelling unit, I think it is, isn't it, Steve? I'm
Yeah.
trying to think,
Yeah.
per dwelling unit. So a 2-family would require 4, et cetera. So that
An
would
apartment would be-
all apply as we have now. It would just be a matter of changing the transient language that we currently have in the dwelling definitions or family definitions to something else.
So in the discussion, are we talking about leaving it as a single family or 2-family, or are we talking about doing what we said over here and then including any dwelling?
Right.
That would include the other dwellings?
Yes,
That's my
multifamily,
understanding.
duplexes,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
Yes, condos,
Yeah.
that's all.
Condos.
Yeah, just dwelling, period.
Yep, I could go with
Okay.
that.
All right. The next item is a draft zoning ordinance amendment relating to assembly halls.
Okay, we discussed this amendment on the 18th of January, I think. There's been some condensing, but all the regulatory information there is the same as last time with regards to the use in the proposed zoning districts. There has been a change in the name as the Planning Commission requested. I think that was the main thing that came out of the last time we talked about this. So I'm offering, instead of assembly halls as the use, that the use listing would be assembly, education, or social event facility.
Sounds good to me.
Joe?
I had one question. It never would have crossed my mind until I looked at your write-up here. Your page with the changes, section 2, you list 13A, B, C, and D, which is arcades, bowling alleys,
Right.
pool or billiard parlors.
Right.
That is in certain zoning districts.
Right.
Then you go down to section 3 there, and you've got section 2.5 and 13.2.4 list bowling alleys and pool or billiard parlors,
Right.
which excludes arcades. Is there some real reason for that?
Yes, those use listings all appeared with clubs in them. So I just took the clubs out and left them as they were, as they are
I
now.
would propose adding arcades to the 6.2.5 and 13.2.4. I mean, if you're gonna allow bowling alleys and pool or billiard parlors, if they've got an arcade in them,
We can throw that in there, and then I can get rid of another section in the amendment document.
yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
That was my only comment.
Oh, also, I did throw in the repeal of section 17.3 and 21.92 that we'd spoke of, if you recall. But
Yeah.
I did put that in the document as well to take care of that we discussed. So I can make those changes to add arcades into section 3. I can condense those and run it by legal counsel at this point, I think.
Need a motion for that? Send it to legal?
No, I don't think so.
Ship it.
Make your changes and send it on. Okay, and the other one is the draft zoning ordinance amendment relating to convalescent home uses.
Okay, you have the draft document there. I provided another in front of you to make sure the complete listing under section 5 and section 626, instead of just saying hi, which is what I have there, actually puts the correct use listing in there, so you have that. And that's corrected on the one for the audience as well. So this amendment provides definitions for adult daycare center, assisted living center, and healthcare living center. The healthcare living center is the one where the commission wanted to make sure that we referred to the physical and mental health issues, so that is within the healthcare center definition. So section 2 of the amendment document proposes to repeal the current definition for convalescent or nursing home as a result of, and replacing with the healthcare living center definition. Section 3 takes out the use listing of elderly housing and convalescent homes and replaces that with assisted living center as a use which requires a special use permit in the residential development and village center happen to be residential overlay zoning districts. Section 4 provides for the current use listing of assisted living facility / convalescent home, and replaces with the assisted living center or adult daycare center as use which requires a special use permit in Village Center, Indian River, and Village Center Toppinby zoning districts. Section 5 removes the current use listing of elderly housing, nursing, and convalescent homes, and that's proposed to be replaced with the use listings of adult daycare center, assisted living center, or healthcare living center. It's uses which require site plan review in the commercial development zoning district, light industrial, and general industrial districts, and then requires a special use permit in the agriculture, forestry, and rural character country living zoning districts. And that's the effect of the amendment document you have there.
Schnell?
The only thing I had, my comment last time was the changing it to however on the Public Act 110 of
Right.
2006, that should read are not subject to regulation under this ordinance.
Okay.
And then the same thing under the healthcare living center. Just take the S out of both of those.
Gotcha.
Hi.
These three new definitions, there's nowhere it's used by right. All of them either special use or site plan review.
Correct.
So the farm as proposed previously would not be allowed in the residential or lake and stream zones.
I think we won't necessarily be able to categorize the farm at this meeting.
Oh,
It's
because
still
of
in-
legal.
It's still in court, and I'd hate to have a use determination under these new uses.
Is there another way to ask that question?
No.
Well, I
We're
can tell you
trying to
that-
figure out.
It would have to do with the specifics of what they're proposing, how each unique one would fall within these categories.
I can tell you that there's no recommendations in this amendment for any of these uses in lake and stream protection within, if they are, there are some of what I deem the lesser impact uses like adult daycare and assisted living that are proposed to be allowed in residential in similar by special use permit.
But the three big ones would be, so, okay. That's my main concern is that, you know, we have a handle on the areas if we can't refer to one of the previous.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, anything else with that?
That one looks good. It cleared up a lot of,
Send it to legal?
yeah, send it to legal.
Okay, do we have any other unfinished business? Any new business? Staff report?
I have nothing to bring up tonight, thank you.
I'm working with a gentleman from the DEQ to do, as part of the annual education requirement of the planning commission, to do a soil erosion 101 type of thing. I know we've been talking about excavating at large sites and what might need to happen if you want to make any changes. And I thought a good place to start would just be start with the basics. What do we already do? What are best practices? What is the DEQ and soil erosion? Hopefully Hank can be here for that one. We're going to have the gentleman from the DEQ do that. What I'm going to do, though, is wait. He can do this on a 2-week notice, and just wait until you have an hour clear on one of your meetings, and he's okay to come here on a Wednesday night. So I thought, just make it part of your regular meeting if that's okay with you.
Sounds
good.
Great.
Sure. Okay, planning commission comments? You guys are scaring me. Public comments?
Carl Muscat, I'd like to thank the planning commission tonight. I mean, we've got a very late turnout tonight because I think the people that were in attendance here at the last meeting were within the understanding that this would be solved as simply as possible. And I think just redefining what a dwelling is and what a dwelling is allowed to be used as a rental will simplify that without getting into a bunch of other onerous restrictions. On these, and I understand the need to amend some of these ordinances and stuff, but as a more than casual observer here, I mean, this one here for amending to adult daycare, assisted living and stuff like that, and you're impacting at least 4 different sections here. It would be really great, and I don't know if it would assist the planning commission to have a strike through of what's being changed within the text of the actual section that's being amended, because I'm sort of following along with Scott talking here, and it's Village Center and it's Indian River and things like that. And there's people there that, in both Indian River and Topnabee that, you know, had gone through public hearings and stuff and were allowed uses and defined what uses they wanted and stuff, and now they're being amended here at the county level, I think without any input or oversight from the local people sort of thing. And I think that's one thing that concerns, I know especially down people in the Indian River area, that things suddenly change and they didn't hear about it sort of thing. So, and you know, typically, on an amended document, it really helps if you have strike through and stuff on your original wording and stuff, so people can actually see what has changed rather than just, we're going to plug this in, but you don't really know what came out where it was something plugged in there before. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public comment. Anything else from the board? Motion to adjourn?